Bay Cities Construction. We have a new show today, episode 33, and we are talking about the big, great shakeout. Today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for emergencies and what are some of the emergencies that you should be planning for. So we're going to take a little look at a couple different maps that the government has put out to bring some awareness to the different geographic areas here in LA or Southern California, and some of the things we are going to experience in the event of the various natural disasters we're exposed to. So hey, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're going to start the show, episode 33. California Shakeout. Hey, so since 2009, California, in order to bring awareness, California started with the great California Shakeout, and it's basically to bring awareness to being prepared. So, but before we get started with that, just want to remind you, episode 30, we did an entire episode on how to brace and bolt your house for an earthquake. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. That's episode 30 on YouTube. You can always follow us, obviously, on YouTube and on Facebook. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Great Shakeout. We're going to remember Loma Prieta. We're going to be talking about the various natural disasters that Southern California is exposed to. We're going to talk about how to prepare for those things. And we're also going to talk about seismic retrofitting. So let's get started. The Great California Shakeout. It has expanded since 2009 to Alaska and Washington State and Oregon, Montana and British Columbia. So guess what? What do all those states have in common? This is basic. All of these states run along the tectonic plate, and basically it's where two plates meet and things are shifting. You may remember that from your college geology class. So as part of the like any other government program, they want to make it as simple as possible. So the idea is that during an earthquake, you drop, you get cover, and you hold on. So I don't know if you guys participated in that, but that's a silly picture of me participating in the shakeout. And yes, it does look like I'm about to lose my lunch, but I didn't. Luckily, I did not. So. It's a cool thing. It's cool to remind people that we live in earthquake country and you should prepare for it. So we've got an episode of that linked in here for those of you that want to see my big self get under this table. All right, remembering Loma Prieta. Loma Prieta was an earthquake up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and a lot of damage occurred. It happened. It's widely known as the World Series earthquake because back in October 17 of 1989, we got hit with, or they got hit by a 6.9 magnitude earthquake at 5 o'clock, and it did cause a lot of damage. It was considered a very significant earthquake. It 63 deaths, 3,000 injuries. It shook for about 15 seconds, which isn't really all that long, 15 seconds. The Cypress Freeway got damaged. The Bay Bridge got collapsed. It was a big deal, and it probably was the largest earthquake that we've had in modern history, and it prompted a lot of new regulation as far as building codes go. So you'd like to think that something positive came from that, and we're hoping that the regulation is enough to make a difference. So let's talk about some natural hazards. Hey, so I just want you to keep in mind, this isn't like designed to be like a bearer of bad news, but like we live here, right? And we have to be cognizant of our risks. So this is really what we're talking about today. And this is a map here of the flood zone of the coast. And this is all from FEMA, and also you can look at these maps at the USGS. There's actually a few more maps. So this kind of details the area where there's the floods, where it's prone to flooding. Most people don't know that the largest natural disaster in California was not an earthquake. It was actually the Great Flood of 1862. The flood was so bad that there was, I think, like 12 feet of water between the Palos Verdes Peninsula and Azusa. For those of you that are familiar with the 210 freeway over in Azusa, you can, if you drive by there, right by the freeway, the 210, you'll see a series of rain capture ponds, and that's all part of the system to capture the water that comes off the mountains. So this flood was so big, it was statewide, that it brought an end to the gold rush. It literally stopped the gold rush. Thousands of head of cattle were killed and sheep. Thousands of head of sheep were killed. It devastated many families. You know, back in those days, it was an agricultural economy. So when the central valley was flooded with 10 to maybe 17 feet of water, depending on where you were, it just destroyed the crops. It was a very big natural disaster, the largest to date in history. So we're also susceptible with earthquakes. If they happen in the ocean, we get to experience the tsunami situation. So here's a map that shows the exposure to tsunami floodwaters. And for those of you that don't know, if you haven't turned on the news in the last week and a half, we're susceptible to wildfires. So this is a little heat map of the areas that are susceptible. A lot of the worst areas, obviously the exposure or the risk is the hillsides. We get a lot of rain, we get a lot of growth during the winter and spring, and then it dries out and it becomes a lot of fuel. So get a goat, get a couple goats, get a lot of goats. Actually, you probably only need about maybe 15 goats. Anyway, this is a picture here of Malibu. That was last year's fire. It's pretty bad. People evacuating. There were horses on the beach. People had let them loose so that they had a chance to make it. It's a bad scenario. It's a bad deal. Saddle Ridge, Palisades. We're very, very densely populated, and our roads are not very wide. So when we have an event like what's in this picture, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people to move on these very narrow roads that we have. And this is probably one of the better fault maps as far as giving you a macro understanding of where the fault lines are. We're all the way down here in the South Bay, and we've got a series of fault lines coming in through here. Any of these two fault lines will produce a 7 magnitude plus. San Andreas is back here. This bad boy right here. This big red one right here. It's a real scary one. And this up here is Ridgecrest, and then there's another series of fault lines that are very active. By the way, if you haven't seen it, the LA Times has posted a series of earthquake articles, and they're talking about how active the San Andreas has been. It's been more active in the last year and a half than it has been in the last 20 or 30 years, something like that. There's a really bright journalist that covers all of the earthquake and seismic news and geological news. So you may want to follow him. I'm sure you'll find it right away. I don't remember the guy's name, but I was reading the article a few days ago. And he seems to be the one that's published a lot of articles on the San Andreas and the different earthquakes that we've experienced here. So check it out, latimes.com. Free commercial for you, LA Times. All right, natural hazards, soil liquefaction. For me, as a contractor, the liquefaction situation is one of the scarier deals because it's very, very difficult to build a building that can withstand the kind of violent movement that the ground makes in a liquefaction zone. So basically, the earth starts to shake and the building sinks into it. And then you've got this other thing called lateral spread, which is really scary. We I don't know if you guys remember, we covered that in our trip to Ridgecrest. But lateral spread is when big chunks of soil, stuff that's 2-3 blocks wide, move. They just move. And sometimes there's a building on one side and a building on the other side, and it moves. Really bad for buildings. Lateral spread. Remember that. All right. So hey, let's get ready. Let's get prepared. Should have a nice little kit here. First aid kit, some ropes, some flashlights. Some of you may have seen what's in my bag last week. I got to share with you a little bit about what was in my bag. If you didn't see it, check out that show. I like having water in my truck. I've got a cooler. I've got probably 20 of those small 12-ounce bottles of water. A little bit bigger than this stuff here. But I always have one of those. I've got a little bug out bag in there. I've got some food and just some snack stuff just to get me through like a day or two in there. I think it's just prudent to have that type of stuff. I definitely have some flashlights and some rechargeable batteries that I can plug into my car. If any of you have a flashlight like the one here, I will give you a gift card. If you still have that flashlight from the 1980s, I will reward you for being diligent, and actually probably from the 90s. The Starbucks. Yeah, send me a picture. Alex at BayCitiesConstruction.com, and post your comments below if you have a flashlight like that. I'm curious to see how many of you have that. So, my dad has got like canned sardines. Not good in the car. The canned fish situation. Try and stay away from that. Dried goods is good. I was talking to Brian about this today. I was saying that I got tired of throwing away canned food, so I went to the freeze-dried stuff, and it tastes better. A lot of it, you can find some of the freeze-dried. It's basically dehydrated food, and it doesn't have all the preservatives and stuff. It's a better way to preserve food, and it tastes better. So you can get it at what is that? Wise Foods. Wise Foods. I got a couple big containers, and you can get the smaller packs. Like if you want to taste some of it and kind of get your family acclimated to it, you can order some sample packs from them online. So I think that's way better than the canned stuff, because I got tired of throwing food away every so often out of my garage, and it's heavy as hell to move it around. So this is a little tote for your car. I have that. I love that. I bought one with wheels. We have another one. I bought a couple of them. We use them here. But anyway, I have that in my car, and it's really cool because everything is there. In the event you have to leave your car, you can just take everything with you if you get one with some wheels on it. I do have a spare pair of shoes in there, some walking shoes, and I think you should take some time to consider what you're going to have in there. It's very easy to put everything in the kitchen sink in there. So just kind of be practical and try not to go off the rails too much. But it is important to have that. It's also important for you to understand that your utility service is going to be disrupted. I've got a little travel trailer that's got a Jenny in it. It's got a 30-gallon gas. It's got a 20-gallon gasoline tank, and it's got a 60-gallon water tank. So, we can live out of that bad boy if we have to. Not everybody has one of those, but if you like camping and you like going out, it kind of can serve a dual purpose. In the event you have to move out, your house gets damaged, you'll have a second place to go. So we bought that trailer about a year ago, so very happy that we bought that. It's important for you to understand that major roads could be damaged, so consider that if you're going to evacuate. We have a lot of bridges here. We have a lot of freeway overpasses. So a lot of those could be damaged. So take that into consideration. Hey, if you want to download the FEMA checklist, we have that on our website at softwareretrofitpros.com/checklist. You can download that for free. You don't have to give us any information or anything like that for it. You can just download it. And if you do have to give us some information, we won't bug you. I think it's definitely our part in getting the public aware of the importance of being prepared. It's important to get prepared. All right, so let's talk about seismic retrofits. So if you live in a building that has tuck under parking, basically where the car's under the building, It's considered a soft story building, and it's considered a very weak building. Earthquake wise, it's a weak building. So many of these buildings are getting done now. If you live in one, hopefully it's being retrofitted soon. This is a picture of what the actual building looks like. The other one was a diagram. In Los Angeles, this is the level of compliance. Now, this is a little bit old. It's from the beginning of the year. We don't have a current one. But there's basically about 13,000 buildings, and definitely a large portion of them are, on their way to getting compliant. They haven't all been built out yet. Definitely, there's probably about 7,000 or 8,000 that are in the process of pre-construction. So this is what it looks like. You've got a steel frame. It's called a moment frame. This is a Simpson moment frame, and it basically will prevent the building. It creates resistance back and forth laterally. It's called laterally if you're talking in engineering terms. And it gives the building, it braces the building and keeps it from collapsing. Normally this joint here would break, and the building would lean over. A couple other examples of some smaller buildings that are soft story buildings. Now, this picture is really cool. Well, it's really bad for the property owner, but it's cool because it in the sense that it tells you, it shows you what occurred. Now, when I first looked at pictures like this before we went to Ridgecrest, I thought the front of the house moved, but or the top of the building moved, and that's why it's separated at the top of these columns. But the truth is that the building stayed still, and the ground moved. And basically, when the ground stopped shaking, it stopped in this direction as it separated, the foundation separated from the walls, and that's why you see that displacement. And in this case, it looks like it probably displaced maybe 12, could be 18 inches, something like that. So the tragic part about what you're looking at in this picture is that you could have probably prevented that with like a $6,000 bolt down. And most people don't even understand how important it is. Most people that their foundations are bolted down, but it isn't enough. They didn't have the connectors and the technology back when those houses were built, pre-70s we're talking about, to understand how to properly brace and bolt the house down so the foundation wouldn't slide from under it. And that's exactly what happens, by the way. The house doesn't slide off the foundation moves away from the house, and you have a massive amount of damage. So it's important to learn. So this is what it looks like. This is a Simpson plate that goes right on the mud sill. What you're looking at is this is the concrete stem wall. This is the mud sill, and then this is a piece of blocking that we put above it to help brace it. And this is not a full assembly, but you're looking at a piece of it. And this is part of what we do in order to brace and bolt a single-family residence. So this is a little bit more of a schematic showing the bolt down. The next step is, let me go back here real quick. The next step is to brace the floor joists so that they don't slide over the mud sill. Most people don't realize that. The damage that we saw in Ridgecrest was, so think of my left hand as the stem wall, the concrete wall, and then this is the floor joist that sits on top. And as the ground moved, the floor system slid over the stem wall. And that it was enough in most cases for the house to get red tagged, that movement. So if it slips 5, 6 inches, 7 inches, basically all of the connections between the floor system and the stem wall sever, and you have a lot of damage to deal with. We don't want to do that. Okay, so important to tie down that water heater, otherwise you'll have gas. You could break the gas line, start a fire, or the water can just start pouring out because you break the water main. Not the water main, but the water line, and it starts pouring water your house. Now, they have some really cool technology for the gas shutoff. This, in an earthquake, this little red box here will shut your gas off. But they also make it for water. So if you have an earthquake, the water will shut off too. Super important, relatively cheap compared to the kind of damage that it prevents. Okay, I think this installed, we have a contractor that we use. It's like what, $350, right, Brian? Something like that. And I don't think that the water lines are much more expensive than that. A plumbing contractor can install this for you. If you look online, I'm sure you can find them. There's plenty of people that install this. Super worth it. Fire extinguishers. I can't tell you how important it is to get a fire extinguisher, and get a bigger one than this. Okay, you should have a few of them. I have one. I have a large 20-pound one in the front of the house, and same size in the back, and then I've got a couple little ones kind of peppered around. So think about this. There's a lot of fires you can't put water on it. So you want an ABC fire extinguisher for sure. You want a few of them. They've been on sale recently at the Home Depot and Lowe's. I ordered mine on Amazon, and I got they didn't have the bigger commercial ones at Home Depot, so I bought that on Amazon. All right, the Big One podcast. You want to learn more about all sorts of natural disasters? NPR's got the Big Ones podcast, and we can post on there where you can find that podcast on the description below. So be on the lookout. Jacob Margolis is the host of that show. Real smart guy. He also writes about the topic. And of course, everybody knows Dr. Lucy Jones. And very nice lady. Got to meet her. And I've read her book. If you haven't read her book, The Big Ones, you should totally read that book. It'll give you a perspective about what the true risks that we're facing. It'll also give you a historical perspective. She's a great storyteller. She's a great writer. She talks about historically all of the big natural disasters that we humans have had to face, and what our mindset was at the time, and how the different civilizations got through it. So she covers Pompeii all the way up to, she actually covers the 1860 flood. And here in California, she's got maybe one or two chapters on California. So check it out if you haven't done so already. Dr. Lucy Jones, man. And if you haven't downloaded the app, get it. Shake Alert LA. We've got that on our phones. I don't know. By the way, did you guys feel the earthquake? I live in Redondo Beach. Last week, it was last week, right? It was Tuesday of last week. Did you feel it? I live in Redondo. It was supposed to be in Compton, I think, the epicenter. That's like the second, well, that's probably the fourth earthquake that we've experienced here in the South Bay this year. So obviously including Ridgecrest. Hey, so you guys have any questions? You have, you guys curious about what we have, what I have in my bag? Go ahead and post it below. We don't have a whole lot of time tonight, but I totally would like to hear what you guys have in your bag. And if you haven't done so, please visit our blog. We have a really cool blog at softwareretrofitpros.com /blogs. And we've got dozens and dozens of articles on there. At baycitiesconstruction.com, we've got hundreds of articles about all sorts of construction services. So, hey, if you want to know more about us, by all means, check us out online. We've been in business doing construction for single family and multifamily residential wood frame buildings for 15 years. We can help you design the perfect project for you. So, hey, thanks very much for watching the show. If you haven't done so already, please smash the subscribe button. I'd love to give you an alert when the next show is up. My name's Alex with Bay Cities Construction. Mining you don't need a contractor, but you do need a team of pros. My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you don't need a contractor, you need a team of pros. Hey guys, get ready for the next earthquake. Get prepared. Get the checklist over at softwareretrofitpros.com /checklist. My name is Alex with Bay Cities Construction, reminding you don't need a contractor, you need a team of pros.
Do you know that a big earthquake can produce a wave that's 2 feet tall? Hi folks, I'm Alex Rodriguez, and I want to protect your house for $199 a month. I'm the owner of Bay Cities Construction, and after visiting Ridgecrest, it's clear to me that you can prevent a tremendous amount of expensive damage by having a seismic retrofit done to your raised foundation.
Have you ever wondered if your house needs to be bolted down? And have you ever wondered what could happen to your house if it's not braced and bolted down? Let's check this out. Let's get down and dirty. So this is how we do a bolt down. We bolt down the mud sill to the stem, then we connect the floor joist to the mud sill, and then ideally you connect the subfloor to the floor joist. That's the system to keep this connection intact while the floor is violently shaken.
Our low-cost financing makes this project affordable. The process is easy. It only takes 1 day. We live in earthquake country. Dr. Lucy Jones reminds us that earthquakes are random. We can't predict earthquakes, but we can prepare. Remember, it only takes $199 a month to protect your most valued investment. Get peace of mind with a Bay Cities Construction seismic retrofit. Protect your largest investment. Go to baycitiesconstruction.com and sign up today.
My question to you is, can you over-engineer a house for an earthquake? Look at that. You tell me. The big question is, did we do enough?
I'm Alex Rodriguez reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros.
My name's Alex Rodriguez reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros.